the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and Carlo. On today's show, we will react to the weekend's Serie A action. Inter win yet again against Udinese to strengthen their hold on first place, but Napoli stay 3 points behind them with a gripping 2-1 win over Milan. Moise Kean completes a great week for himself with the winner for Fiorentina against Atalanta, who are now officially out of the Scudetto race. Bologna stay in fourth as they make it 5 wins in a row in Serie A. Roma make it 7 wins in a row ahead of this weekend's huge match with Juventus. Juventus starting Igor Tudor's reign with a win thanks to some magic from Kenan Yildiz. And we'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie ASS of the week. And we will also preview the big Coppa Italia semi-final, the Milan derby between Milan and into the first leg of that semi-final, which is in midweek. A quick heads up, though, for all the Serie A fans in the UK and Ireland, you can now stream every single match live on OneFootball, no matter which team you are backing. OneFootball's got you covered. You can watch via the OneFootball app on your phone or connected TVs from Apple TV, Google TV, Samsung, LG and Fire TV, or on the website tv.onefootball. And what's even better is that you can choose how you watch it. You can grab a team or seasons pass to watch all the matches until the end of the season, or just the ones from your favourite club. There's also a match day pass for $9.99 to watch all the weekend's action, or a single match on pay-per-view for £4.99. And if you miss the live game, you'll still get access to all the match highlights too. So if Serie A is your thing, OneFootball is where it's at. We have a link in the description or of the episode for you to buy your preferred stream. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week without any ads, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $3.99 a month plus VAT. And now you can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price and terms. And for all of you who do listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. We are also on YouTube as well, so do subscribe to us there because that really does help us grow and do more quality content for you guys. You can also now become a patron on YouTube via YouTube memberships. Just go to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/@itafootpod for more details. Okay, let's get into today's show. So we'll start off with the big Sunday evening match between Napoli and Milan. Napoli win the game 2-1, but it was a very eventful game with a thrilling ending to the match. But Napoli managed to hold on despite a late onslaught from Milan. So let's discuss this first of all from the Napoli perspective. Napoli with a crucial win to stay in the title race because Inter had gone +6 just earlier in the day. So this win means that Napoli stay 3 points behind Inter with 8 games left. Important also for Napoli to win given their terrible run of form, only 1 win in 7 before this game. So if they don't win this game, I think we can pretty much say the title race was over. But they got the win. That was important. I thought that they played a great first half. They deservedly were a couple of goals up at half time. And they were really, they looked a lot fresher. They were playing with going back to the 4-3-3 because of David Neres being back. And I think he added a new dimension to them that we haven't seen in his absence, as the poor form has shown, where he brought the pace that they just have no pace when Neres isn't the team. They look more dangerous in attack. They put Milan under pressure, forced Milan into mistakes, got the 2 early goals. They come flying out of the blocks, and we're looking good. But the second half, they did struggle. That's also on Milan, which we'll come to after. And they were really quite holding on at the end. And maybe on another day, maybe probably would have drawn this game at the end. In fact, if the Milan had scored that penalty a bit earlier on and they'd have had longer to get the second goal, maybe Milan would have got that second goal. So a bit of a game of two halves for Napoli, Nima.
Very much a game of two halves. I think that's the theme of this episode. A lot of games were like that. And just for the Napoli perspective, I mean, the first half, Milan, I don't know how much of it was Milan not even there or caring enough, and how much of it was Napoli just outplaying Milan. Probably a mix of both, because that's how it felt. Napoli were in cruise control in the first half. They scored quickly. They controlled proceedings. They looked like they were just in complete control. Very composed, controlled performance. I thought I really like Raspadori. So the 3-5-2, I was kind of looking to see how Conte. I was excited to see how that worked for them. But there's no doubt that this 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 with an asterisk, because it's a Conte 4-3-3, actually really works better for them, and they look much better. Lukaku, although scoring one of the most hilariously funny goals I've seen, the ball bouncing off his foot and getting this like kind of trajectory and going to the back of the net, he was very good. Neres was outstanding. Politano, for me, if I were to, a lot of people have hyped up Scott McTominay as potential player of the season, but for me, I think Napoli's player of the season has got to be Politano, because we know who he is, we know his strengths, we know his weaknesses. But you show me a player at Napoli who has shown more fire, determination, grit, and desire than Politano, regardless of the system. Whether it's a wing back in a 3-5-2, whether it's a winger in a 3-4-2-1, whether it's a wide player in a 4-3-3, this guy just never stops sacrificing himself for Napoli, and for the cause, and for the shirt, and for the team. And when he goes off, it's because he literally hasn't an ounce of energy left in his body. And that kind of dedication and commitment is truly fantastic to see, when you're in this position, when you're in this part of the season. And it's really funny, I've mentioned this a couple of times again, and it bears repeating. Politano was chased out of Inter twice by both Conte and Spalletti. He won the Scudetto with Spalletti, and now he's in a Scudetto race with Conte. Both times at Inter, neither of them believed he worked in their system, and now they've reunited at Napoli, and he's already won the Serie A title with Spalletti, and he could do that with Conte as well. It's an interesting one, that. But
Yeah, at his age as well, for sure. I think he's had a really good 2025, Politano. He showed how he's been able to adapt to two different systems, and he was really, really good in a surprise wing-back role, which I never would have expected him to. In terms of player of the season, he hasn't, for an attacking player, he hasn't delivered enough goals and assists. I think it's 3 goals, 2 assists all season. Well, no, 3 goals and 3 assists all season, which isn't enough. And that's obviously part of kind of Napoli's problem this season. They haven't got enough goals and assists from their attackers. But I think in 2025, definitely, actually in the last 2 months, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists, but like important ones as well. Atalanta goal he scored against, Milan he scored against, an assist against Juventus, the assist against Udinese. So he's been quite decisive. And like you said, he's such a fighter, and he's really encapsulated the spirit of Conte. So
yeah, and he also
I
leads
think,
by example. I think, you need players like that. He's now an experienced player at Napoli. He's one of the senators in this Napoli dressing room, and he's assuming responsibility fully. Like I said, we know his strengths, we know his weaknesses. But when you have a player who assumes responsibility, that leads by example, the way that Politano does, in a Conte system with Conte's management style and Conte's tactical disposition, this really is a Napoli that is bigger than the sum of its parts, that is better than the sum of its parts. And I think that no one represents that, embodies that better than Matteo Politano. And that's why I think he should be, for me, he's the player of the season at Napoli, simply because of that. If we're talking simply qualitatively, it's Anguissa. There's no doubt. Scott McTominay notwithstanding, I think Anguissa has played at a different level. But if we're looking at the whole of it in terms of attitude, determination, leadership, importance, leading by example, putting the hard work in both phases, sacrificing himself defensively,
I think there's been
that's Politano.
with Napoli. I think there's been different players who have impressed at different times of the season. Like I think at the start of the season, like Buongiorno was absolutely fantastic in the first kind of few months of the season. Then I think I mean, you had McTominay who's been probably maybe the most consistent of the Napoli players from like start to finish in the season, I would say. And then you've had we had Anguissa who started to come really really strong from kind of like December to February. Then he got his injury. I think he was absolutely brilliant during that time. I think Lobotka's been pretty consistent throughout the season, and you have to keep an eye on that injury, because if that is if it's a significant injury, then that's fatal, I think, for Napoli. And then Lukaku started the season well, then he disappeared, and now he started to come back into it. Politano, like I said, really good. And then even like there's others that have started to come, like Billy Gilmour, since that Anguissa injury's come into the team, and he's played every game since that Anguissa injury, even with Anguissa coming back. And Billy Gilmour's really been wonderful, and I thought he was great. And I'm really enjoying watching Lobotka and Gilmour, their tandem, the way that they're my kind of players, the way that they keep the ball, their short passing, their short game is so good. They play between themselves. Come and get the ball off us. Oh, you can't get it off us. But even also adding substance as well, like not just passing for the sake of passing. Like he got the assist for Lukaku's goal as well. So I think that with Napoli, it's been different times of the season. We've had different players emerging to be the leaders of the team, and that's obviously important because it shows that they're not reliant. And I think that's probably what's also kept Napoli in it as well. That they haven't been like, even though they've struggled to score goals or they've had bad periods, they're not reliant on just one player or a couple of players. And if they're out, everything goes. Like they're a team, and everybody contributes at different times. And I think that's probably the strength of this Napoli team.
No, it is. It is. They are a team, and they work and attack and do everything as a team. So no, I'm with you on that. I think that's fair. The only thing is that, just as a side note, I think if Conte stays past this season, regardless,
he didn't commit himself, by the way.
Well, of course he's not.
He was asked and didn't commit himself.
He never commits himself, even if he has a 5-year contract. He doesn't care. But if he were to stay, I think it's clear they have to continue with this 4-3-3. And there's two. I think I think both Inter and Napoli would be very wise into swapping Raspadori and Fratesi with one another. It would be a win for the teams. It would be a win for the players. Fratesi would be a monster in a Conte system, and Raspadori in a 2-man attack in a 3-5-2 for Inter would be outstanding. I think it would be a swap deal that would make everyone happy. I don't want to see Raspadori waste another season away at Napoli when he's clearly not. He works in a 2-man attack. They're not going to play with a 2-man attack. Napoli are better when they play a 4-3-3. At this point, I think it's just, I just see winners everywhere if Fratesi Raspadori swap teams, because the dynamism Fratesi has and his finishing, timing, and a Conte system would be outstanding. And Raspadori equally, he goes to an Inter that play a football that suit him and in a 2-man attack. It's just right now no one's winning from this situation, and I think both would win if they
Yeah,
swap
I mean,
teams.
there's time to discuss that. My only concern with that would be, can you play Fratesi and McTominay in the same system, seeing as McTominay's the plays the Fratesi role of getting in late into the box. That's my only question mark with that. But we'll have time to discuss that
Yeah, but I
closer.
mean they're going to be in the Champions League next season, and they're going to
They're going
play
to
at
need a
least.
squad, yeah, of course, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, for
you need
sure.
to improve, and they're going to have to buy another striker as well.
Oh, they have
Because
lots of work to do. They've
yeah,
got a pretty old team as well. But
yeah,
well, let's see how it goes. I mean, what this does show also is Conte again getting his revenge on Milan. Milan decided not to hire him last season. We've obviously seen what's happened to Milan. We're going to come onto that in a minute. What disaster of a season it's been. But Paratici looks like he's going to get that sporting director job at Milan. Has made him, according to multiple reports, his first target for Milan next season, which I hinted at last season before it came
yeah.
out last week, didn't I? I said, watch out for Conte. And now it's
No,
actually...
I think that is almost a certain now,
Mm,
because I think Milan are going to have a revolution in the summer.
mm.
But we're going to get to that in a
Yeah,
minute.
well, let's get to that now. Let's get to that. I do want to talk about the Teo penalty, but we can discuss that in the Milan section. But first of all, with Milan, this game it's Groundhog Day at Milan under Conte. So every single game, pretty much, it follows the same format. Um, Milan are abysmal in the first half of a game. They go behind either a goal or sometimes more than a goal, 2 goals in this game. They concede abysmal goals defensively. Then at half time or into the second half, Conceição makes desperate mass changes to his starting 11. He throws on loads of attackers. Um, and then Milan improve in the second half. They score, they fight back, they lay onslaught in the closing stages, and they rescue, or in this case, they just fall short of rescuing the game. It's the same old Milan and the Conceição. It's the same story. We every single Milan game pretty much is this exactly. If you want to sum up Milan's game as in terms of what the events of the game, uh, and the timeline of the game is the same. It's exactly the same timeline every single time, and that was exactly the same here.
No, it was. There's not much to say really. I mean, it's yeah, there's not much to add. I mean, this is how it looks when Milan play, unfortunately, and it's it's a weird one. I mean, I tweeted out that I think that it looks like Milan players have zoomed out. Like they've completely zoned out and out of the league. They just don't look like they care. Um, and it just feels like a bit of a mess. And I have to be honest with you, I never thought it would collapse like this. But I'm looking at the games they've got left, um, and I don't think Milan make it to Europe next season. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the only chance Milan have of
Through the
making
league.
it
Mm.
in the league, yeah, the only chance that Milan have of making Europe next season is by winning the Coppa Italia, and I expect them to turn up against Inter in that semi-final like Ancelotti's Milan from 2005, because it's a trophy, it's a derby. They've already won one trophy this season. If they can win 2 trophies, that would kind of mitigate a little bit the absolute cluster F of a mess that this season has been. They haven't won the Coppa Italia since 2003. That's 22 years ago. And so that would kind of, for players like Leao and Teo, who most likely will leave, especially Teo in the summer, well, then he will have won the Scudetto, the Supercoppa, and the Coppa Italia. Then he's done with Italy. He's won everything in Italy, and he can leave and basically say, look,
Yeah.
I've done everything. I can move on. It kind of becomes a cycle that closes naturally. But they've zoned out of the league. They just don't care. And even though Conceição in the second half made changes, and the changes had effect, we should acknowledge that, it still reeks of desperation. And I don't know how much of this I can blame on Conceição, more than the situation generally at Milan, which we've discussed to death thousands of
Yeah.
times. I don't want to
Same
repeat
at same at
myself.
Juve. Yeah, it's like the
Yeah,
club.
exactly.
Is it the club, or is it the manager and players, or is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
it's
difficult. I mean, we can say the top four's over now. They had sort of half got back into it with coming into this game, but they're now 9 points off Bologna in fourth. 8 points off Juventus in 5th, 8 games left. They're in 9th place. That's too much. I mean,
Well, not just that. They've
it's too
got
much to make up.
Fiorentina, Atalanta, Roma, and Bologna left to play.
Yeah.
So
Among two punishing Coppa Italia games.
Yeah,
So
from the way I see
it's
it,
not going to
they
happen.
don't care about
No.
the league. They are focused on that Coppa Italia, and I think given the mess they're in, it's probably the right thing to do because
The question has been raised though that should Milan do what Juventus did, get rid of Juventus got rid of Motta. Should Milan now do the same for Conceição?
why
These
should they
last
do
games
that?
of the season, bring in someone just to give them a little bounce. But then the comeback to that is, what is the point? They're not going to
What's
get
the
top
point?
four.
Yeah.
Juventus Juventus have the chance to rescue the top four. They were, they're 1 point behind 4th place. They have the chance. A new manager can get them that 4th place. But with Milan, it's like, well, there's just no point. They're not going to get top four. So what? You're bringing in a manager basically to try and win the Coppa Italia. Well, you might as well stay with
Yeah,
Conceição because
because
he's actually
Conceição,
been doing
yeah,
well in the cup games. So
yeah.
so I don't think there's a point of bringing in a traghettatore.
No. I mean, look, Conceição is the traghettatore.
Yeah,
Like, this is the thing. They've already done that, and the result is what it is. So at this
It's
point,
a strange one in Conceição. He's never been able to get the best out of this Milan at all. The defense is even worse than Fonseca. He changes the team and the players and the positions where they play so many times, searching for the solutions. He hasn't been able to find those solutions. I mean, we've had Leao in or Leao out. Leao was out this game. We've had Reinders deep centre midfield. We've had him in attacking midfield. We've had Pulisic out on the wing, then as the number 10. We've had different centre-back partnerships. This game, again, we had 2 different players playing at centre-back, different centre midfielders. We had Bondo starting this game. We've had the Fab Four, but they're not Fab, playing all together. Then we've had them one out because it doesn't work. We've had Jimenez. Then we've had Abraham. Abraham started this game. He's tried everything. He's tried every single thing. Nothing's worked. The only time it ever works is when he throws the kitchen sink and gets all desperate and just throws all his attackers on in the second half of games. And they managed to recover, and they have recovered. They've shown, which is weird on the sense of, they've thrown the towel in, but they always seem to recover. Milan actually this season, there's no team in Serie A that has more points from losing positions, losing situations than Milan this season, which is pretty mad when you consider they're in 9th place and they've got more points from losing positions than anyone else. Imagine where they would be if they hadn't managed to turn around these losing positions to get points. They'd probably be near the relegation zone.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
it's
So
mental.
it's
Absolutely
insane.
mental. It's absolutely mental, and it just goes to show to me that the desperation of it is that this is a poorly constructed project from start to finish. They had an entire season during Pioli's last season to fix this, and they didn't. They did not do it. They didn't do it properly. They brought in Fonseca, who was not fit for purpose, got rid of him, brought in Conceição, who is a completely different style of manager. His Portuguese passport, which he shares with Fonseca, notwithstanding. And then now they've brought in players that it's just a mishmash. Everything is just a mess, and it's not looking good at all. I think they need to. This summer's going to need a proper rebuild. They need to get rid of lots of players. There needs to be a proper, like, from scratch kind of build up. And if they do bring in Antonio Conte, or if it is Max Allegri or whoever it is, if they bring someone with a big name, then they will have to buy players that person will, even though Allegri is a company man, he's also, he's a big name. He will demand things because he has a CV that warrants him demanding things. And the same with Conte. But if they again want to bring in another coach like Fonseca, then so that they can easily get rid of who they can just sell to the wolves to protect their own asses. I seriously don't understand what the point of Redbird owning Milan is, at least from a sporting side.
Yeah.
Because football is played on the pitch. You could be the best businessman and bring in the best sponsorship deals and monetize in the most modern way possible. But if the core function of a business is to play football and you're not very good at running that side of it, what's the point?
Well, the first thing that the new manager needs to do, if we're talking about just on the pitch, is sort out that defence. I mean, it's just abysmal. I mean, the first 2 goals, I'm sorry. I mean, this comes in a week where we've seen probably the worst goal ever from a defensive point of view to do with Italian football ever seen, with the Italy goal conceded against Germany from a corner. But these Milan goals, just following on that theme. The first goal in the first minute, Pavlovic and Teo Hernandez, and the whole defensive unit, which has been again just what we've seen all season. There's a high line. There's no pressure on the ball. Pavlovic completely out. Pavlovic is always out of position. He really is. He's like he's like a PlayStation player where you take control of the player and you move him. You know what I mean? He has no sense at all of controlling his body where to move on the pitch. Pavlovic. I don't know what he's doing on that first goal. He's completely out of position. Teo, of course, he's never in the right position in terms of holding a line. And just a ball over the top, and okay, it's a great finish from Politano. But then the second goal, even worse. Billy Gilmour gets way too much space on the ball, and he threads it through to Lukaku. But what are Pavlovic and Gabbia doing? Both of them go to close down Gilmour. Now, both of them are it's way too late for them to close down Gilmour. So the very fact that they decided to try and close down Gilmour is insanity, because they're too late. So by the time that they should realise it's too late to close him down, and in that case they have to just hold their line. But instead, they both of them could try. Gabbia, who's closer to Gilmour, fine. I still think it's a mistake that he should close him down, but okay, he closes him down. Then, for some bizarre reason, Pavlovic also tries to close him down, just leaves Lukaku completely on his own. Lukaku is all on his own, and Lukaku, okay, he mishits it, but he scores. It's just those two goals. It's really difficult to believe that this is a Conceição defence, because Conceição at Porto was renowned for just having a fantastic defence that rarely
Yeah,
conceded and gave nothing away, and they defended as a unit, as a team, and everyone
as
was
a
tight
team.
together.
Yeah.
And then you see these goals, and it's just mad. I do criticise. I know TL apparently got an injury, but yeah, playing Gabbia and Pavlovic together, they're too slow, both of them, to play as a pair. So I think you're asking for trouble straight away when you play two such slow defenders together. So I think that was a mistake from Conceição, but also we just have to accept that maybe some of these players, some of these defenders are just not good enough. Pavlovic, I think, falls into that category. I know sometimes he shows heart. He's definitely got the heart of a lion. He definitely wants it. He definitely's got the right attitude. I appreciate that. But I've said it 1,000 times. He's an individual defender. He's not a team defender. He just goes off and does his own thing too much and leaves gaps because of that.
I
And
think he's a defender who, in a back three, would be very good playing centrally in a back three. I think if Conte comes, I think his career, he'll be a winner if they keep him, because I think if they play him in the middle of a back three, centre back in a back three, I think that would work.
he needs to be disciplined a lot. Maybe Conte is the kind of manager to do that. I would have thought Conceição is, but he needs to be disciplined of holding his position and not just impulsively just going off and doing his own thing, because yeah, we saw that on both goals here. So the defense needs a lot of work. But even just defending from the front, which has been a problem whenever Leao plays. But I just don't understand why he drops Leao for this game. Probably because he wants more defensive work and work rate, from the midfield upwards. But he plays Felix, who does no chasing back either. He's just as bad as Leao. And Di Lorenzo, the acres of space that Di Lorenzo had all of the first half on the right, because no one was coming back to defend. So, what's the point of dropping Leao if you're going to play Felix, who does just as much, just as little defending, but at least Leao does something offensively when he gets the ball, whereas Felix doesn't even do it. Felix has just become a joke now. The actual fact that he's even starting games now, obviously because of Jorge Mendes, it's ridiculous. The guy is just a disaster. João Felix, he really is. It's insane.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a little bit like with Joaquin Correa. I think João Felix would be a fantastic futsal player. I think he would be. I think he would, because of the style of player he is and technical he is, and in small spaces and in an enclosed space, and how quickly he is to react. I think he would be a fantastic futsal player. But in a bigger pitch, I just don't think he just can't make his talents pay off. He's a wonderful player technically, but there's just nothing concrete from what he does. And it's like you said when he signed, it's always like this: great first game, and then it's goodbye. Exactly like Correa, great debut, and then arrivederci. And it's it's not a good situation for Milan. I think that for me, I consider Milan season over. I got to be honest with you. I think it's over. The only thing they've got in the Serie A, that is, the only thing they're playing for is the Coppa Italia.
Penalties, though, we have to talk about their penalties. I mean, again, they miss another
Why is
penalty.
Pulisic not taking the penalty? I mean, I know Santiago Jimenez took them for Feyenoord, but he's not exactly got a fantastic record
Apparently,
either.
Conceição said that Pulisic, it was Pulisic's decision. He handed the ball to Jimenez to take it. But
Well, probably because he hasn't he hasn't made a single point in the Serie A, no assists, no goals, and they want to get him flying, which again shows what a fantastic team player Christian Pulisic is. But in the situation Milan are in, you do that when you're 2-3-0 up, not when you're two goals down.
You don't do that when you need a result. No.
I mean,
chance.
it's just, again goes to show
Milan have missed 4 of their 9 penalties this season. It's insane. It's mad that they've missed that many. But Pulisic is the only one that's got a good record. He's got 4. Well, he scored 4 of the 5. Tammy's missed 1 of 2. Teo and Jimenez have both missed 1 each. So it's just not good enough. I have to say though, just before we move on, that decision to give the penalty is ridiculous. It's such a clear dive from Teo. He puts his leg in between Billing's legs. He runs past him and he positions his foot between Billing's legs to win the penalty. It's a terrible decision by the ref, and the VAR also upholds it. When you can, I mean, if you've played football, you know that's a dive. I can't believe that they gave. Well, you can make a mistake. The referee,
but it's not a clear and obvious error.
For me, it is because you can see.
Yeah, but that's not how the clear and obvious error is written and how it's applied. It's basically is what Teo does is actually pretty smart. It's very furbo, and so there is contact, and so of course they give the penalty. Now, of course, if you look at the dynamic of the situation as a whole, the referee should have bon senso and understand that, well, he's kind of looking for that or whatever. I'm not fussed either way, but I 100% understand that given how the clear and obvious error requirement is applied, there's no way the VAR.
How can it not be a clear and obvious error if the contact is because he and Billing even said it.
It's not
Billing said it himself. Error. He kicked me, which he's right. Teo kicks him. Teo puts his. I don't understand how that's not a clear and obvious error if the contact is made by the.
Well, I mean, Teo didn't foul. Yeah, if Teo fouls the.
For me, he does, because if you watch him running, Billing doesn't move towards him. Billing just holds it, and Teo places his leg in between the legs of Billing to. I can't.
I think it's not. I mean, I understand why the VAR can't intervene, and this is again why I'm very critical of the way that the clear and obvious error requirement is applied and the way that they use it. I don't like it. I think it needs to be clarified. I want it to be used in a different way, and I've said it repeatedly.
I mean, luckily this isn't a big scandal because they missed the penalty and Milan lost the game, so it doesn't matter, I just think it matters in the big picture of this should never be a penalty. We shouldn't be given these kind of decisions shouldn't be made, but it didn't matter in this game. I think justice was done that the penalty was saved because that's just not a penalty. He's.
I think it's one of those situations where if the referee explains what he's seen and how he's read the situation and the images that the VAR has corroborate that, there's just no way that they can intervene. And that is why I want to change the requirement of how it's applied, the clear and obvious error requirement. And that's what I'm critical of. Because I feel that it sometimes becomes a hindrance to the referee, the VAR. Because, I mean, the way I view the VAR is that it should help the referee. It should help the referee make better decisions, not
I
Okay,
just
what
think that
did
the
you?
VAR should also be that, and this is where you need the understanding of kind of referees and VAR that have played football, because if you've played football, you know that he's done that deliberately and he's put his leg there. But I don't even think you need to have played football to realise that. To be honest with you.
It's not. It's not about having played football or not. It's about how the clear and obvious error requirement is applied and how they're instructed
Yeah,
to apply it,
but they
and
should
that's what
apply
needs
it
to
in a
be
way that
changed.
when they know that it's deliberate. I mean, for me, that's simulation. That's clear simulation. That's as much a simulation as the what he did against Feyenoord.
No,
It's a
there was
different. It's a
no
different. It's
impact
a
against
different
Feyenoord.
incident.
The Feyenoord thing was a complete
But
This is not
he's
simulation.
deliberately looked to win a penalty there.
Yeah,
And
but that's not simulation. A simulation is inventing something that's not there. There was no contact in the Feyenoord game. Here there is
there
contact.
wouldn't be contact here if he hadn't have deliberately put his leg
Yeah,
there
but there still was contact. Like it's not
because he
would
put his
have
leg
become,
there. You know,
but it's still there was contact. Like again,
that's
simulation
like
is
if you're running past a player and then you kick the other player. Then you say, "Oh, there's contact." Well, there's contact because you kicked the other player.
yeah, but
I
there's still
just
contact. It's not simulation. Simulation is when you pretend that there is contact and there is none, and that's a bookable offense. This is not a bookable offense. Again, like it's not what you and I think. It's about how they actually apply it, and they have to stick to certain
well
standards. Otherwise, it
then if
becomes
that's the
completely
case,
arbitrary, and we have a complete shit show at our hands.
well, if that's the case, if that's not considered simulation, I don't know what is because he's deliberately
Well, I'll tell you.
simulated.
Well, because simulation is what Theo did against Feyenoord, faking a
That's for
contact when
me.
there is none.
That's simulation as well. Simulation is when you invent something that wasn't there. He's invented something
No, he's not inventing
by
something.
putting
He's
his
doing
foot in
something that's
between.
it's furbo. He's Filippo Inzaghi and Del Piero and Totti made a career out of it, and everybody praised them. Let's not be hypocritical here. This is being clever and being furbo. The Italians
I
invented
know.
this game.
I don't disagree there. It's
Yeah,
football,
yeah.
absolutely
So
football.
let's not let's
But
not
it's
let's not let's not invent something here. It's this is the Italians invented this. Okay, this is like the Serie A is like the Serie A
the
furbo.
foreigners invented it. They brought it
Yeah,
over
no,
here.
the Italians invented furbo. So, and we, so it's within, furbo is furbo,
Let's
and
move. Let's move.
everyone used it.
Let's move on there. Let's move on to Inter. So Inter, as we said, it stays as it is, 3 points. I mean, I think you're going to say it's a game of two halves again, aren't you?
It is a two, most definite. Well, it's a game of a one and a half, and the other half, the last 20 minutes, because what the hell Inter were doing those last 20 minutes is just mind-bogglingly stupid and arrogant and unnecessary. I just sat there wondering, how the hell have you turned this? And of course, Inzaghi, that's why he got so nervous and got sent off. Because you cannot, when you prepare for a game as well as he has, the formation, the tactics, the game plan, and it's smooth sailing. Inter were completely dominant in the first half. The first 70 minutes, completely in control, completely just padroni del campo. Everything in their own hands, everything cool, 2-0 up, cruise control. And then they concede a goal, which is exactly the kind of goal that they've conceded many times this season, speaking of Groundhog Day. And it's exactly the kind of goal that Bayern Munich are good at scoring. And that is when a player, whether it's Pulisic in the derby in September or Soler for Udinese, grabs the ball down the center. And Kefren Turam did it again, even though it didn't end up in a goal, or it was in the build-up for Juve Inter. When a player centrally gets the ball and starts driving and has pace and power to go past Inter in the middle, and Inter's midfield can't stop it, or no one at Inter can react quick enough to stop that player charges towards the Inter goal like a heat-seeking missile, and no one can do anything about it. And more often than not, Inter concede. And that is a worrying sign going into the Bayern Munich game, because Bayern are a team that are very powerful down the middle, and Inter need to be wary of this. It's a wonderful individual effort by Soler. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But the fact that this keeps happening at Inter, that kind of a goal, is a concern. And the fact that Inter just, as soon as Çalhanoğlu comes off, there's just no...
He's playing better again now, though, isn't he?
Well, he's been outstanding, Çalhanoğlu. Di Marco and Çalhanoğlu were great. And Acerbi too. But
I mean, there were question marks over, like, is he
yeah.
on the slide? But he's definitely found himself.
It's still too soon to say he's improved, but it wasn't, he was poor after that. But regardless, what I'm saying is Inter need to need to snap out of this. You can't be this dominant, and they've done it all season. In the 70th minute, and this time in particular, I blame Inzaghi, because as good as his preparation, as good as his lineup, as good as his formation was going into the game, his in-game management and decisions in this game were atrocious. There is no need to keep Mkhitaryan on for 90 minutes when you know that he's going to play some more games. He's 36 years old. His energy levels need to be maintained. You took Çalhanoğlu off. I get that. You wanted to give Barella a couple of minutes. I get that. But, okay, Fratezi's also playing on painkillers, as you said. De Vrij is injured. But regardless, you can't give away the initiative so completely in midfield when you're 2-0 up. Because if you're 3-0 up, fine. But you're 2-0 up. The game's not over. If you're 3-0 up, the game's over. You can, even if they score one, you're still 2 up, right? But his in-game management in this game particularly, and we're talking Udinese now, like this is his fourth season in Inter. The standards have changed. I expect more from Inzaghi now. And for him to destabilize and debilitate Inter the way that he did with his changes and his in-game management is just unacceptable at this point. And I think that's why he got so pissed off, because he knew he screwed up. And that's why he got himself sent off, and he apologized afterwards for it, saying, I made a mistake. It was on me. I shouldn't have done it. And that's, he apologized for getting sent off. But the reason he got sent off is he got angry because he knew that he was throwing away 3 points or 2 points had it been a draw, had it not been for 2 miracles by Yann Sommer, for no reason. And that's on him. He was the cause of the nervousness and the destabilizing of Inter in a game where they were completely in control.
That has been sometimes his weakness, hasn't it? His in-game changes, substitutions. That's never been a strong point of Inzaghi, I don't think, has it?
No, but he's improved there, and I think if you look at when he came to Inter and now, there's been vast improvement.
I have to say though,
but the problem is that this was a step backwards from him.
I have to say that I do think Udinese, they are a tricky team. Like, they've given a lot of trouble to other teams, including Napoli quite recently. They're not a team that you can take for granted and take it easy against, even when you're 2-0 up. And I think that's probably where Inzaghi made a mistake here. He probably thought, look, the game's over. We've got a packed schedule. And I understand that. You've got a packed schedule. You want to rotate. You want to give rest to some players, especially with Bayern next week as well, and the Milan derby as well. Do you know what I mean? So I can understand it. I just think that when you play against Udinese, they are a bit of a bastard team to play against, and they can force things. They've always got Luca. I mean, that header that Sommer saved. They can always force something. Do you know what I mean? They're a pain in the arse to play. It's never a gimme playing against this Udinese. I don't think so. In the end,
no, it isn't. But
I think it's a good result.
No, it is. It's of course a good result. So it's a win, and Inter played outstandingly, especially in the first 20 minutes. They were brilliant. They played Udinese off the park.
Yeah.
And Fratesi was, like I said, his game plan going into the game, his preparation, the formation, everything was spot on. I don't understand why he had to put Correa on and take Arnautovic off. I don't understand why he had to keep Mkhitaryan on for 90 minutes. I don't understand these, and Jan Bisek coming on. He was not at all in a mental state to play this game. He was so nonchalant, so not switched on, so not prepared. He looked unprepared on the pitch, and that's just not good enough for Inter at this point. And they risk unnecessarily throwing away wins when the game should be locked up. And again, Christian Aslani. I was saying earlier about how Fratesi and Raspadori and Inter and Napoli, it's a win-win for everybody. Look, I think Christian Aslani is a good player. Unlike most Inter fans, I think he's a good player. I think there is talent there. I think there is quality there. The problem is he does not work under any circumstances in an Inzaghi midfield, because the guy has zero dynamism, can't press in this system. His movement is just non-existent in this system. He looks lost. He looks like a child that's lost at the supermarket, crying, waiting for his mum and dad to come pick him up. He looks completely lost. And it's been like this for 3 years. It's just not working. They need to get rid of him for his sake, for their sake, for everybody's sake. This just isn't working. And every time he comes on, Inter just look completely lost. They just lose all control of midfield, all control of the game. And it's starting to rub off on the other players as well. Barella was a disaster coming on as a result. He was chasing the game. Now he had to take a yellow card, and now he's going to miss the Parma game. Okay, Bastoni's coming back for that. But again, it's just, at this point, and it's just reached a point where they have to move on from Aslani, both for Aslani's sake and for Inter's sake, because this is just not working. And speaking of referees, Mkhitaryan should have been yellow carded.
I was going to say that. I can't believe
that
it.
Is just...
He kicked him in the head. My God.
It's not a straight red card. People saying it's a straight red card. Learn the bloody rules.
No, it was accidental. He didn't mean to do it.
It's
a yellow
he's
card.
Trying to do an overhead kick, but it's reckless. And reckless means yellow card. That is a yellow card. And Kifi, again, shows why he's one of the most incompetent...
No, I didn't like the referee in total in Serie A again this weekend. It was another bad weekend, I thought, overall.
Yeah, but Kifi
would have been suspended as well, wouldn't he? So you'd have had to play Aslani again.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Mkhitaryan. Yeah, but like for me, Kifi is one of the worst referees in the Serie A. He's just... I genuinely hate...
What I found funny about that incident was like one of the Udinese players was like, he kicked him in the head. And the way that Kifi's reaction was like, no. It was just like, nothing happened. It was funny. Let's move on to Juventus. Igor Tudor's debut starts with a win. Not a good performance. Barely created anything in this game, apart from in injury time when Genoa were pushing forward for an equaliser, and I think Vega had a good chance, might have been offside, and Weah should have made it 2-0. Apart from that, Juventus created nothing at all. The game was settled by an individual moment of magic from Yildiz. But the most important thing for this was Juventus got the win. They'd only had 2 full training sessions under Tudor because they made the decision to wait a week before sacking Motta. I think they should have done it straight away, giving Tudor a bit more time to prepare. But he didn't have that much time to prepare. So the important thing was Juventus got the win. They had to win because of the 4th place, especially after Bologna won. And Juventus have Roma this weekend. So this was an absolute must-win game. Now they have to improve, because if they play like this against Roma, they'll lose. And if they play like this between now and the end of the season, they won't get top 4. So the key thing was win. And now they need to improve their performance in order to keep winning. That's the bottom line. Then if we look at what we can take from this performance, what it tells us about Juventus under Tudor, I think that's clear from the start. We're seeing a Juventus that are much more direct, a lot of long balls straight to Vlahovic, who we'll come to in a second. They were fighting. They were showing a lot more fight, a lot more character and hunger, battling for the second balls. They were much better in the air, aerially, which was a big weakness under Motta, especially the centre-backs. They were winning everything in the air. More personality and expression from Tudor himself on the touchline. In fact, the goal that Juventus scored, we could almost give a pre-assist to Tudor, because he had the ball. He picked up the ball quickly from the touchline, threw it to Koopmeiners, who then did the quick throw, which started the attack for Yildiz scoring. So that's something that would not have happened under Motta. Motta on the touchline was someone that was showed no personality at all. There was nothing there at all. He just stood there emotionless on the touchline. And, Tudor was shouting. He was, arguing with the 4th official. He was geeing his players up. And I think sometimes you need that, especially when you're struggling. That can sometimes be the difference between a draw and a win. And it actually was, because if it wasn't for Tudor's quick thinking and aggressive, take that throw, quick throw, pass it there, throw it there, Juventus did the attack and they scored. So that is, I guess, probably the image side that he's going to bring, the more Juventus identity that he understands better than Motta did. Tactically, they moved to a 3-4-2-1. Vlahovic started over Colin Moani. Yildiz and Koopmeiners behind Vlahovic. McKennie and Nico Gonzalez as wingbacks. On paper, I don't particularly like the idea of McKennie and Nico playing as wingbacks, but actually, Nico Gonzalez in the first half was actually really, really good. Probably his best half of the season. So we'll have to see. That was surprising, so I don't see him as a wingback, but he was actually really, really good. So we'll see if he can get something better out of Nico. The clear winner of the game, though, definitely was Yildiz. He scored a brilliant individual goal. He did a few other really nice little skills and runs, and he did one fantastic kind of nutmeg when he squared it to Vlahovic after half time. This was the big positive for Juventus. It was Yildiz, who had been snubbed by Motta. There were reports that Motta even was really mocking him in training, telling him, "You're not Messi, you're not Lionel Messi," and he hasn't been playing the last games of Motta's career at Juve. Whereas he started here and he was really, really good. He was free in the number 10 role. And I think that's something that probably we saw, that the number 10 role probably is his better role rather than on the wing, where he can be just kind of left out there and isolated and not get the ball. Whereas as the number 10 role, he gets involved a lot more. So I think Yildiz was a big positive. Nico, as I said, and the defence was solid, which is the other positive thing. I mean, Juventus didn't create much, but they conceded virtually nothing. It was just a Pinamonti shot that just went wide in the second half. Apart from that, zero. Genoa are not a team that generally create much, to be fair, but when you've conceded 7 goals in 2 games, it's important to make the defence solid, and Tudor done that. I think that's something I think we will see with Tudor. We will see a much more solid defence, a more pragmatic, when they're 1-0 up in the injury time, they just try and keep it in the corner rather than start messing about with it like Cambiasso used to do. We're under Motta and then lose it, and then teams like Lecce's equaliser in the injury time, these kind of things. So I think those are the positives. Do you want to comment on the positives before I move on to the negatives?
Yeah, I just Kenan Yildiz. Look, when you are a kid and you start watching football, and you see brilliant moments of magic on your TV, and then you go out on the playground and you want to emulate your that play. Kenan Yildiz is that kind of a player. He's the kind of player that makes kids fall in love with football. He's truly just an absolute joy to watch. The things he does on a football pitch is just it puts a smile on my face. I just sit there and just purr like a cat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just he's genuinely one of the few football players that you watch and you just like
nowadays,
yeah, like nowadays there aren't many like him, and he, him, Arda Güler, these technicians, the stuff they do with the ball, the dribbles, the individual brilliance when you beat your man, the nutmegging, the move, shift your weight that quickly from one to the left, make shimmy move, dummy move right, dummy move, and go left. I mean, he's just he's
we
just
want to see more of that. Juventus need to see more of that. And
no, it's just football needs more of that.
Football needs more of that. No doubt.
It's just the stars that that makes that feeling of when you're at a stadium, no matter how big that stadium is and it's packed, and you feel the collective gasp for breath because someone does
the technical qualities, which
that's what Yildiz is. Yildiz does that, and it's just
for sure. Talking of technical quality, or we wouldn't really call it quality, Vlahovic, in terms of the negatives, Vlahovic's performance, he was really given confidence. He got the good big build up. He got the support from his coach. He was played instead of Colin Muani as Juventus' striker. And as I said, Juventus went long to Vlahovic a lot in this game. They went straight over their midfield from the goalkeeper of the defence to him. Almost kind of like Napoli do sometimes, well, a lot of the time, with Lukaku. All I can say is this, if I'm trying to be positive with Vlahovic, is he threw his body about. he used his physique a bit better in his battles and his duels with the Genoa centre backs. But the problem is that when you watch Vlahovic play, he looks like he's fighting with his own body to try and hold up the ball. Do you ever get that impression of him? It's like he's dragging his own body around with him to try and control that ball and to try and get hold of the ball, just get the ball under control, just to control the ball. He's fighting so hard. He's like somebody on their deathbed fighting for their last gasp of breath. That's Vlahovic, just with his own body trying to control the ball. And, I don't think it's a mental. People say it's a mental thing with him. Maybe it has been a little bit. He lost confidence, of course, during this role. But I just think that it's not really a mental thing when it comes to the lack of technique in how he tries to control the ball.
I think it's a confidence thing as well. He knows he's got eyes on him and he's trying hard, but I think this could be the biggest flop in Juve's history. If you consider the amount of money he cost, the kind of player he was and what was expected of him, I can't think of a bigger flop, all things considered, than Dusan Vlahovic. And I genuinely wonder if he has a top career at the highest level after this.
Well, he's got no excuses under Tudor, because Tudor has given him everything in terms of...
Like, people say Amauri. Yeah, but Amauri, what was he when he came? He wasn't this was a guy who'd scored the most goals in the calendar year in Europe. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was a 21-year-old that everyone wanted. Arsenal were moving heaven and earth to get. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was a very highly rated player.
Well, the money as well, of course. 80
the money
million,
as well. Juve sold
salary.
Kulusevski and Bentancur to finance it. Like, the salary, like, all things considered, who would be a bigger flop for Juve?
Yeah.
And I
And
can't.
the other thing, it's becoming a bit of a trademark now for Vlahovic, kicking the ball against his wrong foot when he tries to kick. I've seen this at least three times this year. I've seen that. Obviously, there was the one against Fiorentina where I don't know what he did. When he got the assist, not against Fiorentina, against Atalanta, when he went on the halfway line. Do you remember when he kind of did the assist for the third goal from Atalanta? But I don't know. I've never seen a player try to kick the ball with one foot, but kick it onto his other foot.
You've never seen Romelu Lukaku?
No, I was going to say more times than Vlahovic. I mean, Lukaku scored doing that, didn't he, against Milan? Or did he kick it into the ground? How did he score that goal? I don't know how the hell that physically. I don't know the physics. Defied the physics how that ball managed to go in. But yeah, Vlahovic. I mean, just at least he had the right, he put the effort in and he really tried to put himself about. You can forgive someone a little bit for being poor technically if they at least do that. They're at least a nuisance, a pain in the arse to the defender. And I feel like he was trying to do more of that. A bit like Moise Kean, when I'm talking about when Moise Kean doesn't have a good game, at least he gives you everything. He hassles the defenders. He forces them into mistakes. He's a bit of a battering ram. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Vlahovic is going to play bad, at least play badly this way. Do you know what I mean? So that's setting the bar a little bit low. But do you know what I mean? That's the only thing I can take because, again, technically not very good. And again, if we're talking about Juventus as a whole, just again, not creating. In the first half, 0.23 XG in the first half. So that has to improve. It has to, a lot. But yeah, this weekend, massive game for Juventus against Roma, because if Roma beat them, they will go above. They'll be level on points, but they'll go above Juventus on the head-to-head because they drew in Turin. So it's this weekend's going to be a huge race for the top four, which we'll come to the top four race in a bit. Also in the top four race, Fiorentina and potentially now Atalanta, because Fiorentina win this game 1-0. Atalanta disappointing again. I think no shots on target, I believe, all game. If they had one, it was late on. Poor. Fiorentina controlled this game. They won the midfield. As I've said so many times this season, no Ederson, no Atalanta midfield. This Atalanta team are completely reliant on Ederson in midfield. And the other one is Retegui. In the last 2 months, he was really poor. I know he's coming back from an injury. The last 2 months, 12 games, he's only scored in 3 of those 12 games. So he's had 9 blanks in those 12 games. And again, I have to say, I've been proven right on this. At the beginning of the season, I said, when I was reviewing Atalanta's transfer market, I said they've made a mistake that they've not bought an alternative to Retegui, and they've not bought an alternative to Ederson. And this is killing them in this end of the season because Retegui's completely off form, and they've got no one to play instead of him that can do what he's done. While Retegui's playing well, fine, great, he's scoring loads. The others are also chipping in. When Retegui's off form, they've got no one, and it's killing them right now. Again, they offensively they were really bad in this game. They really did very little. So it's not good enough from Atalanta. It really, again, sums up their 2025, which I've gone on. It's 2 defeats in a row now, both costly. 2025, won 5, drawn 6, lost 8. That's their record in 2025. I mean, that's not even mid-table form. That's all competitions. And they are now in a battle for the top 4. Because
they're very much in a battle for a top 4. The Scudetto is very much as expected, completely gone. Given the tough, they've played 2 of those teams in that tough stretch of games, and they lost both of them, Inter and now Fiorentina. So forget about the Scudetto. They're in a battle to finish in the top 4, and I know we're going to talk about that. Given the games they've got coming up, I'm not sure they'll make it. I have to be honest. If you look at what Atalanta have got coming up, I mean, they got Lazio and Bologna, Milan next, all on the row. Then they got Lecce, Monza, then they got Roma, and then Genoa and Parma. So that's 8 games. No, that's 8 games left, and 4 of those games are really difficult. Which is unthinkable. If you think about it, I mean, it would have been unthinkable. This is great news for Juve, though, because it means that they can actually finish 3rd. I mean, we all thought that it was just the 4th spot that was up for grabs. Absolutely not. It's the 3rd spot that is up for grabs because it's now a 2-horse Scudetto race. There's no doubt about that. And given Atalanta's awful form, they're now in a battle to avoid not missing out on top 4, which could very much happen. And given how, as you said, their poor form in attack and finishing, it's a problem. It's a worry.
yeah, for sure. I wonder also whether the announcement of Gasperini has maybe had a negative effect because although it's not official that he's leaving, he's pretty much come out and said, I'll leave unless. Do you know what I mean? So I wonder whether that's had a bit of an effect as well, possibly. I think it maybe has contributed a bit to the uncertainty around Atalanta. What is our future? But yeah, you're right. The attack, Gretzky is really completely off form, has been for a couple of months. Lookman in 2025, it hasn't been the same Lookman as the first half of the season. And then, some of Gasperini's subs I've been a bit bizarre as well in recent months. A lot of times taking off Retegui and Lookman, even if they're not playing well, but taking them off when you're losing and you need a goal, fine. But who are you bringing on? I mean, he brings on Maldini, Samicic. I mean, I like Samicic, but Maldini again, I mean, he's just not doing anything. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, and then there's obviously the defensive blunder for the goal as well. You just can't concede a goal like that. So, yeah, Atalanta got to be careful. They've got a tough few games. They need to get through those next 3 games still in the top 4, and then they should hopefully for themselves they should be okay because they've got a good end to the season in fixtures. But yeah, they've
4 out of 8 are really difficult.
They've got to
games.
be careful. Yeah, they have to be careful.
No, there is a risk they could miss it, and wouldn't surprise me. And I think with Gasperini doing, I mean, it's not just that he said he's going to leave, or maybe this could be the end, or blah blah blah. It's also because of the way that he handled the Lookman situation. I mean, the way that he, this guy is dreadful of handling players. You can get away with those kind of dictatorial, authoritarian style with young players, but when at some point, human beings like to be treated with respect and dignity. Gianpiero Gasperini doesn't understand that, and what he did to Lookman was embarrassing. He embarrassed himself, and you ruin your credibility in a group as a leader when you do that. They're not, these people, these players are not slaves. You don't own them. You can't, you decide, yes, but you also need to have their respect, not by them fearing you. And when you humiliate their teammate, when you are wrong on the facts, and the way that Lookman handled it so eloquently and elegantly, well, that just made you look like an idiot. And then you go out and say that, and then when you add to that you're going to leave at the end of the season, then people are just like, oh, thank God. So they that of course has an impact.
And Fiorentina have two big wins in a row against big opposition, Juventus and now Atalanta, and they've got over that. They found themselves again. Let's say they 5 defeats in 6 before that Juventus game, or before the Panathinaikos game. Let's say, and then they've got 3 wins in a row. They come back to win against Panathinaikos in the Conference League, and now two big wins against Juventus and Atalanta. So they found themselves again. They're playing well again. And also, they've got a striker who is in brilliant form, who's having a wonderful season in Moise Kean. He scores the winner. He's now got 21 goals for Fiorentina this season in all competitions, 24 goals for club and country this season. So he could hit 30 by the end of the season. And this comes after they scored those 2 great finishes against Germany. He had a clinical finish here. So I think that it's really good to see Moise Kean's development. His finishing is improving. That's been a weakness sometimes. Like, he needs too many chances to score. He's definitely improving that conversion. Sometimes he's still a bit too selfish. He's a bit head down. Sometimes there was at least a couple of times in this game where he could have put a simple pass into a teammate and they would have had a really big chance, and he decided to shoot instead. But I guess also sometimes, if you are a pure number 9, like a Gabriel Batistuta, probably, you need to be a bit single-minded. Sometimes you need to have the eye for the goal, and so I don't have an issue with that too much. But there are times you've got to pass, you've got to put your head up, and that's where Keane still needs to improve. But in terms of his goal scorer, in terms of his overall game, his hold-up play, he's so strong. This guy's like a bull. I mean, after Lukaku, there can't be too many players in Serie A that are as strong as Moise Kean. And he's still quite young. He's still only in his mid-20s. So, he will get stronger as well. He's so, you just can't, you can't push him off the ball now. I mean, Isaac Kean is as strong as they will come. Just like Jonathan Tatar, Rudiger. I mean, these guys are real, big, strong specimens, 6 foot. And Keane has given as good as he's got against all of them. So, yeah, Moise Kean, fantastic. I thought also Nima Fagioli played a really great game.
Yeah, I was going to say
just as he did against Juventus.
Another Juventus sale doing really well.
Yeah, he was wonderful. He was really good in the tight spaces in this game. I thought him and Mandragora really dominated midfield. And it's also, whilst Vlahovic's signature move has becoming kicking the ball against his other foot, Fagioli's his signature is becoming this Zidane roulette that Zidane was famous for, where he turns one foot onto the other. He did it against Koop Miners, obviously in the Juventus game. He did it again in this game as well. He's fantastic at doing that. So yeah, let's see how he develops. Fagioli. I have a lot of issues with his overall game, especially defensive, and his he can be a bit flaky sometimes, inconsistent. That's something that he really needs to build before we can talk about a real serious player. But the last 2 games, he's been really great to watch, no doubt about it. And Fiorentina deservedly win. They should have killed off the game at 1-0. Ranieri, one of the misses of the season, at 1-0. So yeah, really great. Great for Fiorentina. We'll discuss the top 4 in a bit. Just quickly before we do, Bologna and Roma. First of all, Bologna, they win 1-0 at Venezia. They stay in 4th. Probably Venezia deserved a draw here, but Bologna, 5 wins in a row. 1 loss in 16 games in 2025. They keep going, and Italiano keeps going.
It's so impressive what he is doing at Bologna this season that I literally am running out of superlatives and words to describe it. I don't know if you watched this game, but it was not the best game Bologna played in terms of how they demolished Lazio, in terms of how free-flowing they attacked. What it was the kind of performance, controlled, composed, calm, get the job done, day at the office kind of win that you see from big teams. And that's how he's running this Bologna. They're playing like a big team, like a team that's fighting for trophies. The way that they approach games defensively, offensively, the way that they the mentality of how they carry themselves. This is so impressive. I would say, in my opinion, what Italiano's done this season, should he finish in the top 4, I think there's a good chance he could even finish in the top 3. It would eclipse everything that Thiago Motta did last season, because Thiago Motta had better players. He doesn't have as good players that Motta had last season. But what he has done is delivered better results. They're playing better football in the final third for sure, but we expected that. But he's also maintained the organization, the discipline, the structure defensively, and the mental growth that this team has shown as well in imposing themselves on their opponents, even days where they don't put their pedal to the metal in terms of gas, controlling games and winning.
No, for sure. And as my friend, our friend of the show, Mark Doyle, who's an Italian football journalist who lives in Bologna and goes to their games, he told me when I met him a couple of weeks ago, he says, with Italiano, I actually enjoy watching Bologna a lot more as well. So they're good to watch as well. They're enjoyable to watch. They were a little bit fortunate in this game, I have to say. Venezia put in another really good performance, but the story of the season for Venezia which is weird for Di Francesco, is they've just got nothing in attack. That I've watched a lot of Venezia games this season, probably much more than I should have done. I'm not proud of it, but they play on level terms with top opponents regularly this season.
Yeah, they do
all the time. And they also don't concede.
Don't have
they also
in
don't
attack.
concede much as well.
No,
but they don't create chances, and when they do, they don't take them because they've just got no goals or quality in the attack.
No quality
so they
in
don't
attack.
score, and they keep losing games by an odd goal. Have a look at the games they've lost. Always by kind of an odd goal, or they've actually drawn against a lot of big teams as well this season. They've just drawn too many games. That's the reason why that they will go down if they go down, which it looks like they will. Is because of the attack. It's actually not the defense. Defense has been really good. They've been really well organised. A few of their defenders are actually getting linked to bigger clubs as well. So it's unfortunate because Venezia they were if anything the better team in this game, and they definitely deserved to draw.
Hans Nicolussi Caviglia has been again a Juve player that they.
He didn't even play in this game. He was out.
Yeah, I know. But overall, this season he's been outstanding. I think he's been so good.
So,
but I just want to on Bologna, they have a very tough run in.
Yeah, let's talk about that when we get to the top 4.
They have a very tough run in. But then again, you look at their results against the big teams, and it's been very impressive. So it's and they also have the experience of having played in the Champions League. I really think that if they make it to the if they were to finish in the top 4 and they were to qualify for the Champions League, given the experience they've had this season,
you think they could do better next season?
They can do better next season, and I really hope that Bologna keep all their players this time around, that they don't get gutted. And more importantly, I hope that Vincenzo Italiano has the cool and calm to not be wooed by any
I think they have more of a chance of keeping them, as I don't see anybody ready like Xerxes and Calafiori for sure were ready.
Well, it's Dan and Doy if there's anyone.
Potentially, yeah, but I don't see him on the same level as Calafiori or,
no, of course
Xerxes.
Not. No, of course not.
I think that you could convince somebody like that to stay for another season more than you could someone that's actually ready to play for a bigger club. Lecce Roma. very quickly. Roma do it again. 7 wins in a row. The Dovbyk gets the winner 10 minutes from time. Deserved win. Wasn't an easy win. Was a battle. But Roma, Dovbyk, first of all, Dovbyk, respectable record this season. 11 goals in 26 in Serie A, 15 in all competitions. All in all, for someone that's been criticised a lot, and I think he does have his issues. He's a bit slow and he's a bit kind of the way that he moves, he doesn't have the most pace, but he is, you put crosses in the box, he will score goals for you. And he's a pretty decent finisher as well. So he's become important now because he's got 2 massive winners in a row now, 2 games in a row. So Dovbyk is going to be increasingly important for Roma, especially with Dybala out for the rest of the season. So that's important. But yeah, Roma are the form team in the Serie A. 14 unbeaten now, which is amazing. They're unbeaten in 2025, 11 wins in those 14 games. So that brings us on nicely to the top 4 race, and we can start this from the Roma point of view. The top 4 races is absolutely insane, and we can now include Atalanta in that top 4 race. If you take from 3rd place Atalanta with 58 points, you can go down to Fiorentina in 8th on 51. So there's 7 points, 3rd to 8th. Milan on 47 points, so maybe a little bit out of it, but we can discuss them as well. Are Roma now favourites to get into that top 4 at the end of the season? How do you see the top 4 race playing out now?
It's such a difficult thing to say, but I mean, the only thing I look at is the number of who are they playing, and so I look at Atalanta. They play Lazio, Bologna, Milan, Lecce, Monza, Roma, Genoa, Parma. You look at Bologna, very difficult run as well. They've got they got Napoli, Atalanta, Inter, Udinese, Juve, Milan, Fiorentina, Genoa. Juve, Roma, Lecce, Parma, Monza, Bologna, Lazio, Udinese, Venezia. Roma, pretty difficult, tough run into. They got Juve, the Rome derby, Verona, Inter, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Milan, Torino. Fiorentina, they've got Milan, Parma, Cagliari, Empoli, Roma, Venezia, Bologna, Udinese. Judging on that run-in, I think Juventus are safe. I think Juventus will finish 3rd. Then, where we are, I think it's neck and neck between... and Lazio, of course, they play Torino tonight as we're recording this. Then they have Atalanta, the Rome derby, and then, of course, Bodo Glimt in the Europa League. But then they have Genoa, Parma, Empoli, Inter, Juve, Lecce. As things stand right now, if I look at these games that have got led, I think Juventus finished 3rd. I think if Lazio win tonight against Torino, I think they finish 4th, neck and neck between Bologna and Roma. The 3 of them separated by 2 points, maybe. But I'd give Lazio the edge just now, because and I know, well, what about Atalanta? Yeah, but Atalanta's form and the schedule they've got, it wouldn't surprise me if they finished 6th, 7th this season. Honestly, I think it's a bit of the wheels are coming off situation there, if I'm honest. But it won't be. It will be very tight. But I think Juve are safe, and I think for me the favorites right now, I'd say Lazio ahead of Bologna, Roma, Atalanta, Fiorentina as well there. But it's difficult. But yeah, the like I said, Juve 3rd, and then I'd say Lazio right now.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, look, if we have to rule someone out, first of all, let's rule someone out. Let's say Milan. Milan, I think we have to rule out. They've got 47 points, 4th place. They're 9 points. The idea of making up 9 points in 8 games, Milan are pretty much going to have to win all 8 games, or maybe 7 of those 8 games. But in addition, they've got so many teams above them. They're also going to have to bank on somebody above them not going on a run. Do you know what I mean? You'd think at least one of these teams above Milan will go on a run, won't they? And if that happens, then it's goodbye Milan. So I think if we're putting it down to pure probability, we have to rule out Milan. So I'm ruling out Milan now.
Yeah, Milan,
it's too much. Then you've got Fiorentina, who, they're 51 points. They're 7 points off Atalanta. They're 5 points off Bologna, 4 points off Juventus. So they've got the points to make up. They've also got Conference League, which is going to take something out of them as well. They're also probably on paper maybe the weakest out of the teams. Maybe Bologna could argue against that. If we look at their schedule after Milan this weekend, they've actually got probably, along with Juventus, they've got the best schedule.
They do.
So they've got Parma at home, Cagliari away, Empoli at home, Venezia away, Udinese away, and then their tough games are Milan away this weekend. They've got Roma away, and they've got Bologna at home. But all in all, along with Juventus, I think Fiorentina have got the best run in. But I just think that I'm going to rule out Fiorentina because I think that there's the points, there's the schedule, and there's also just the overall quality compared to the others. I'm probably going to rule out Fiorentina. So I think it becomes basically a battle out of 5 teams for these last 2 spots: Atalanta, Bologna, Juventus, Roma, and Lazio. That's how I say it. I think it's very hard to call still when there's 8 games left. That I don't want to say for sure. I think I can probably give a better answer in a few weeks. The head-to-heads are going to play a big role in this as well. But also winning the games you should win. And you look at these teams, and at the moment, the only teams that are really winning the games that they should be winning are Bologna and Roma. They're beating the teams that they should be beating. Whereas Juventus, even though they've got, and Atalanta, even though Juventus have got a pretty good schedule, and Atalanta, probably half of the games are good, half of them are difficult. I don't trust Atalanta or Juventus to even beat the small teams right now. Obviously, Juventus, will see would that change with Tudor, but Juventus under Motta definitely would not trust to even beat the small teams because they haven't barely been beating the small teams as well. So that doesn't make it a guarantee either. And that's what makes it really, really difficult.
No, it's also because it's so tight. Like for me, I look at it basically. Also, you have to take into consideration Roma are out of Europe. Bologna are out of Europe. Milan have the Coppa Italia. Fiorentina are still in Europe. Lazio are still in Europe. Atalanta are out. So for me, I think Juventus will finish third. I think that's, given that where we are in the season, the games left, they have enough quality to see off a majority of those games. And where they are also in the league, I think they should probably finish third. So it leaves that 4th spot. Well, Fiorentina for the reasons you outlined and Milan for the reasons you outlined, I agree. So it's Atalanta, Lazio, Bologna, Roma. Lazio have the Europa League, yes. But I also think that they've for me, that game against Torino is a little bit key. Can they pull off a win there? That shows to me that they've kind of recovered. Bologna have an incredibly difficult run left. Like, they probably have the most difficult run.
I think Roma have the most difficult run.
No, I think Bologna have a worse one. They've got Napoli, they've got Inter.
Well, Roma have got, I'll read out their running. They've got Juventus at home, Lazio in the derby, then they've got Verona at home, but then they've got Inter away, Fiorentina at home, Atalanta away, Milan at home, Torino away.
Torino.
I mean, I think that's
grueling,
an insane run-in, that is. But then they won 7 in a row and they're unbeaten in 2025. So how much do you play into form? It's so hard. I can't really call it at the moment. I just think if you're going by running, then you probably say Juventus. I would agree with you on Juventus, but then they have to win these games, and they're not playing well.
I'd say that's what I'm saying. Like, based on running and everything, I'd still think that Juventus third, Lazio 4th, neck and neck.
I have to say one thing though.
Bologna,
I don't like with Atalanta. We have to take into account that Atalanta also have the points advantage, and that is important when so many of these teams have hard run-ins. Atalanta are on 58 points. Now that's okay. That's only 2 points above Bologna and only 3 points above Juventus, but it's 6 points ahead of Roma. So Roma need to make up that 6 points with that ridiculously hard running. That's still a lot of points to make up. Do you know what I mean? When there's only 8 games left. I think the Atalanta have still got a good cushion there as well. But I'm going to be a cop out here and say it's still too early to call. That's what I'm going to say.
Of course, it's
Too early to call. It's too early
to call. But
Yeah.
like, if you're asking me what I think Juventus will finish third, and I just think Lazio will edge out Bologna and Atalanta for fourth, depending on how it goes in Europe for the Italian teams, because the fifth spot could also be a Champions League position. We don't know that.
It's unlikely, but
yeah, it is
I would
unlikely,
hope
but it's
it
still
is.
possible. No, I mean, if Lazio get to Lazio can get if Lazio, Fiorentina, and Inter go to at least the final, that should definitely put the Italian teams in a good position. But so we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, if you're asking me what I hope happens, look, I hope Lazio win the Europa League and finish outside of the top 5, because that means six teams in the six Serie A
that's
teams in
been
the Champions League.
really that's really asking to win the lottery.
And I hope Fiorentina finish out of the top 7 and win the Conference League, because then they'll be another extra team in the Europa League for Italy.
Now you are.
I want as many teams as possible in Europe next season. I want half the Serie A in Europe. So that's my
last
season. Remember, you had Ivan Juric's Torino in Europe.
I want everyone. I want Lecce in Europe.
Yeah, that would be
I
fun.
want everyone in Europe.
Okay, right. Rest of the weekend fixtures. So Como 1, Empoli 1, Cagliari 3, Monza 0. And then on Monday we have Verona, Parma and Lazio against Torino. Midweek fixtures, we have the Coppa Italia semi-finals. We have Empoli Bologna in the first leg, Empoli at home for that on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we have the big Milan derby, yet another Milan derby. Milan are the allocated home team for this game. It is on Wednesday. It's at 2100 CET. Nima's going to laugh because I said
2100. What is this? Like a military reconnaissance meeting? Like what?
At least there's
2100 hours.
At least there's no doubt. Someone doesn't get up at 9 o'clock in the morning to watch the game.
Well, yeah. Well,
obviously,
unless you're in Australia, then you have to get up at all kinds of stupid moments.
Obviously, the game is at San Siro, as Milan are as I said, the home team. In terms of team news, what we know is that Milan will not have Emerson Royale. He's out. Inter, you can correct me now, but they're not going to be playing Lautaro, Dumfries or Zielinski. Am I correct there? Are they all out?
Dumfries and Zielinski for sure. We don't know about Taremi. We don't know about Lautaro, but it's unlikely. And that's kind of where we are, and we don't know the physical status of Fratesi because Inzaghi said something. We don't know about De Vrij. So
that brings us on to the probable 11s then. Well, let's start with Inter, as you're talking about them. We can probably expect some kind of rotation for this game from Inter, can't we? Because of they've got obviously the busy schedule, or they're going to have Bayern Munich in the Champions League, which is so important, and Parma. Would I be right in saying that the Parma game and the Bayern game are considered more important for Inter, even though this is a derby?
No, I don't. I think I think Inzaghi just views this now as I think the Bayern game is the most important one out of these. But the derby, because also it's the semi-final, it's the derby. They haven't beaten Milan. They got a draw and a loss. Well, they got 2 losses and a draw against them. So I think that's important for him to not go through the season without having beaten Milan once. So I do think he values it, and also it's a potential trophy because he looks at it. Okay, he would have Inzaghi has a chance to have had won both Inter's 20th Scudetto and Inter's 10th Coppa Italia. So that those kind of things that matters. So I do think he's definitely this is an important game. It's a derby, but. Given that Barella's going to be suspended for Parma, he'll definitely play.
Yeah.
Bastoni missed the game due to suspension against Udinese, so I kind of expect him to play because then he can rest him against Parma. I think Sommer.
Aslani's suspended as well. I should have added that before. So Aslani's suspended for this game.
Yeah, and he's also suspended for the Bayern game, Aslani, so he'll definitely start against Parma. Then Arnautovic, does he start this game? or does he play him for Parma? Correa, does he start against Parma away, or does he start this game? I mean,
Martinez will probably play, won't he, in goal?
I don't think so. I think Sommer's
You
playing.
think Sommer's going to play? Okay,
Yeah,
so the
I think
back
Sommer's
three, we're
playing.
looking at Bisek will come in, you'd imagine, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I expect it to be
Bisek, maybe Bisek, Acerbi, Bastoni. Acerbi rests against Parma and plays against Bayern.
Yeah, that's what I would
That's
expect.
what I would think. And then
Yeah,
Darmian has to play, doesn't he?
Yeah, Darmian to the right and Augusto on the left. I think he's going to rest Di Marco.
And then the
And
centre
then in
mids.
midfield,
Centre mids, definitely Barella.
Barella's definitely playing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other two?
It's
Guess you haven't got much choice, have you? If
it's going to be
Aslani's,
Mkhitaryan and Çalhanoğlu.
yeah,
Like he hasn't chosen.
unless Frattesi's okay, and then Frattesi could play.
Yeah.
And up front,
I think it's going to be Thuram, and if Taremi's fit, I think he will play.
And if not,
it's Correa and
or
Arnautovic.
Okay. And as for Milan,
also Zalewski could start on the left as well. Just as a like, it could be a situation.
Or the right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he could play Zalewski on the right, Carlos Augusto on the left, Bastoni as a left centre back, and Bisek as a right centre back. That's also a choice because Zalewski did come on, which is possible.
Yeah. Okay. And Milan's team. Well, I should add also that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is out, and best wishes to him because he had to undergo emergency surgery for appendicitis. Had to have his appendix removed, which is really nasty and could have been really dangerous if they hadn't got that as quickly as they did.
Nice.
So, yeah, so he's probably going to, well, he's definitely going to be out of this game. He might even miss, I don't know how long the recovery is, but I would imagine that the rest of his season would potentially be at risk with that. So those are the two out, Loftus-Cheek and Emerson. I think that Milan, I know Milan are going to basically, Conceição is going to play what he considers his strongest team, whatever that is, to win this game. Because as we said earlier in the show, this is basically all Milan have to play for now. I also think that Conceição, knowing that, and we didn't say this before, Conceição knowing that he's not going to be the manager next season, the league means nothing to him now. Like, what's he got to do well in the league?
He could leave Milan after 8 months with 2 trophies.
Yeah,
and that would look fantastic.
Absolutely. So I think his the only thing he's cares about now is Coppa Italia, because he can win a trophy, which is something tangible for him. Whether he, if for Milan, it's better Milan get in the top 4 and don't win the Coppa Italia and then win the Coppa Italia and finish out the top 4. But for Conceição, he doesn't care about that because he's not going to be here next season. So he wants to win the Coppa Italia. So I think he's going to put all his eggs in the Coppa Italia basket, and that means he will play his strongest team. Now, what will that team be? Well, obviously, Magnon will be in goal. Kyle Walker will definitely be right back. Teo Hernandez surely will be left back. The 2 centre backs, I mean, that's a difficult one because they were both a disaster against Napoli, but Thiaw missed that Napoli game because of a late injury, so he's going to be in doubt for this game as well. So really, you're looking at Gabbia, Pavlovic, or you bring back Tomori. So it's going to be 2 from those 3, and then in midfield, I mean, he played Bondo, things didn't go particularly well for him against Napoli. So I think it will definitely be Fofana. And then it's going to be probably either Musa or Bondo at centre midfield, unless he brings Reinders back for that, which I don't think he will. I think he'll put him as the attacking central midfield. And then I think Leao will definitely come back in to start this game on the left. He has to. And I think Pulisic will play on the right. And then up front, I think it would be Jimenez, because Tammy Abraham started the game against Napoli. Jimenez came on. Things improved after Jimenez came on, even though he missed that penalty. So I think it's going to be Jimenez up front. So I'm actually quite confident of that lineup for Milan. The only ones I'm not sure about is the centre-backs. Does Tomori come in? And probably the centre midfield. Does Bondo start again, or is it Musa? Or does Reinders drop deep? And then if Reinders drops deep, then maybe Pulisic goes to attacking centre midfield and somebody else plays on the right instead, maybe like Chukwueze or someone like that. So I think it's quite easy to predict the Milan team, but the Inter one's a little bit more difficult.
Agreed. And that's kind of how I see it as well. I do expect I expect Inzaghi to be a little bit more controlled in this game. I don't expect him to go gung-ho from minute 1. because it's a two-legged affair. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a kind of a cagey, affair where none of them try to push too hard the other, but just kind of, just see where this goes, and then in the second leg try to go for the kill, because it's a two-legged affair. And also because of Inter have so many important games coming up. I don't think they can afford to really kill off games like that when it's a two-legged semi-final. I think that's the kind of approach I expect to see from Inter, both against Bayern and Milan, is to kind of just neutralize this and then go for the kill when they're the home team in the return leg. Obviously, if the opportunities arise, they'll go for them, but I don't expect them to go gung-ho like against Udinese in the opening 20 minutes, where Inter completely dominated and created 3-4 chances and should be 3-0 up. That I don't expect to see from Inter against Milan in this first leg. A little bit reminiscent, mirroring Inzaghi's first season, which I, again, keep coming back to in this pod, that this season is very reminiscent of Inzaghi's first season. For many reasons, I do expect that's exactly what happened. It was a goalless affair, and then Inter went for the kill in the return leg. But equally for Conceição as well. I mean, what we've seen him do against Inter so far is exactly that: try to absorb Inter's pressure, win the ball, and hurt them on the counter. Hopefully, Inzaghi would have learned his lesson as well. So I don't expect this to be a spectacular game by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting to see, as you said, kind of like the way that the approach from Inter more than anything, because the way that they've fallen into Milan's trap in a similar way to the way Pioli used to fall into Inzaghi's trap of attacking and then leaving themselves open, and that's cost Inter in the recent derbies. Whether they, I don't think they will fall into that trap again, which is why I think you could be right, and it could end up being a bit of a stalemate. Neither
Look, I
side
mean,
wanting to open up for the other, maybe.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's a two-legged affair at this point, and Inter got the Champions League and the Serie A to worry about, and it's like
So they could
don't
open up
need.
a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're going to
It
play
could go
Milan.
both ways, yeah. It could go both ways like that.
Yeah, but they're going to play. Yeah, but they're also going to play Milan in a return leg. They know they have to play Milan again in 3 weeks' time, so there's no need to kind of go for the kill like that. Like when they play Parma, they have to win that because they're in a title race. This game, they don't actually have to win. They just don't have to lose. That's the only thing they don't have to do. Obviously, they'd like to win, but I think the same thing with Bayern Munich game away. They don't have to win away to Bayern Munich. Of course, it helps. But given that it's a two-legged affair and you don't have the away goals rule, it just makes it kind of irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just play off this game. Don't try not to get injured. Try not to spend too much energy. Focus on Cagliari, Parma, and then you have those games against Milan, Bayern, and Roma where you have to win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's leave it at that for that game. Let's finish off with Baggio, Premface, and Serie ASS of the week. So my Baggio of the week is Genoa's kit, their Boca Juniors inspired kit that they wore against Juventus, which was beautiful, absolutely beautiful kit. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I might actually buy it. Actually, fantastic. Boca Juniors is just one of the legendary kits of football, isn't it? So that was fantastic.
You do know why Boca Juniors have blue and yellow, right?
Blue and yellow, yes, I do. Remind everybody.
Because when they founded the club,
They're the team of the people, aren't they? They're
when they founded the club, they said that the next ship that comes into port, whatever country's colours, that flag that is on the flag of that ship will be the kit of the club, and that happened to be a Swedish ship.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought you were going to say something about because Boca Juniors are like the team of the people. They're like whereas River Plate are like the aristocratic team. So it's always been a kind of like a battle of between the poor and the rich kind of thing whenever Boca Juniors play against the River Plate, in terms of their history, that is. So I thought it was related to that, but that's a good story, that is. Premface of the week. I have one. Do you have anything?
No,
It's your
no.
story. Well, it's
Yeah.
not you, but it's the report that went round that I loved your tweet on this. That the favourite to be the next manager of Tottenham is Simone Inzaghi. And what was your
Well, I
tweet? Tell
mean,
everyone your tweet, Nima.
the funny thing is that the person who was supposedly the person who said it didn't immediately responded to this aggregator account saying, "I never said that," like, like, which is so hilarious. Like, you know, the tweet was, "Simone Inzaghi is one of the favourites to become Tottenham's next manager if Ange Postecoglou is sacked," according to Paul O'Keefe, by this ridiculous account called Nerazzurri Society, which is an affront to the English language and anyone and anyone like who is an Inter fan. And now they've blocked me as well, which I think is hilarious. Well, this guy Paul O'Keefe replied, said, "Not what I said. He's one Fabio Paratici likes, and Fabio is a consultant to David to Levy." And so I quote tweeted this and said, "Angelina Jolie is one of the favorites to becoming my wife if I choose to get married next summer." I mean, it's stupid because it's ludicrous thing to say, because he's not one of the favorites to replace Ange at Tottenham. Well, maybe for Tottenham he's one of the favourites, but he's not going to leave Inter and Champions League football and trophies and titles to go and argue with what's his name over championship level players. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And if you were to leave the Inter,
Having said that, though, according to when Cave Solikol, your best friend, when Christian Eriksen left Inter to join Tottenham,
Inter Milan, a bigger club than Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham got a new stadium. Can you imagine saying that on TV and pretend and then argue that you're a serious journalist? I'm not sure that they are. And then since then, of course, Inter have won 6 trophies, been to Champions League finals, a Europa League final, and Tottenham have won a Coppa del Mondo?
One of Iran's greatest sons, Cave Solikol.
Yeah, with that fake Cockney accent, and he's standing there pretending to be a war correspondent during the World Cup in Qatar, because England fans aren't allowed to drink beer, but the VIPs are. It's like, it's just oh my God, I just wanted to die. Everything about him is so cringe. It's just everything about him. Jesus
I lit
Christ!
the fuse beautifully there.
Oh, it's just I can't stand it.
Right, Serie ASS of the week. I've only got one this week, and that is I saw that the Liga Serie A boasting again. They're always boasting, Serie A, about things that there's nothing to boast about. They're boasting about their new big partnership that they've done with Reddit. They're boasting of the first football league in the world to establish a presence on Reddit.
There's a reason that you're the first football league in the world to establish a presence on Reddit, because barely anyone's on there, and B, it's an absolute digital cesspool. If people think social media like Twitter is crap, well, or hell, well, hell has a back door, and that is Reddit. It's absolute trash. Barely anyone's on there. It's just nonsense.
Well, I can say that I've never read it.
Oh my God.
That's all I can say.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. No, it's like it's not a very nice platform, and it's not, it's for certain things, I suppose it is, but not for Calcio and Serie A. It's got, I mean, after 15 years, I think they've got.
I love how the Serie A and Italian clubs love boasting about things that there's nothing, like Juventus boasting about going to the moon. It's like, well, why? What are you doing that for? Like, who cares? Like, how does that actually help us? Oh, we've got this big new partnership with Reddit. Isn't it amazing? Like, well, no, it's not. It's not helping.
I mean, look, I'm looking at it now. The Reddit Serie A thread, it has 509,000 people. apparently accounts that is subscribed to it. But it was created on August 1st, 2010. That's 15 years ago, and they've not even up in 1 million. And if you look at the recent interactions, I mean,
But also, you don't need a partnership with Reddit in order to.
no, but listen, 32 comments, 380 votes. Like, who are you? Like, there's no one's on there.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they have 14 people
I have no
online now.
problem. I have no problem in trying to grow on many different areas. Including on Reddit, or not that I think that I don't know if anybody actually uses these things anymore. It's a bit of kind of 20 years ago, isn't it?
But that's what I
Forums
mean.
and stuff. But whatever, maybe some do. I have no problem with that. But you don't need to do a partnership with them in order to just to do that. You can just do that anyway.
Yeah, but this is my point. Like, if they wanted to have a presence on
On
Reddit,
Reddit, you don't need a partnership. That's my
no,
point.
you could have basically created the community yourself
Yeah.
a long time ago and been active on it. Like, for me, if there's no one's on there, like, it's not, it was big like 10 years ago, especially the football side of it is, it's just not for, like, it's you're boasting about something that is just, oh wow.
Yeah, always boasting. Always boasting.
No, it would be brilliant if they boasted. I don't know if they had a partnership with TikTok or something that actually young people use and is very popular, or Instagram, very popular. But no, they go on Reddit instead.
Well, what
In the
did you
year of
say
our Lord,
about what
2025.
year are they living in? Like
It's
1945?
no. They use the internet in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That's how they use like the
We're
way
always
they
decades
view.
behind the rest of the world in every
Yeah,
era,
two
aren't
and a
we?
half decades behind the rest
When it
of the
comes
world.
to the commercial aspect, we're in 1945. We think that America is the post World War II world, where
Yeah,
it's all about America, and the rest of the world doesn't exist. And when it comes to the internet, we're living
no,
in
it's 2002.
forums. We're gonna make a partnership with MSN next, or GeoCities or something. That's our next partnerships.
Oh my god. Yeah. No, it's weird. Yeah, it's a weird one
I remember
because, like I said,
GeoCities. That was the first website
yeah,
I ever had. I
yeah,
had my own
GeoCities. Yeah, that's really good.
GeoCities website when I was at school, when I was like 15 years old, and
Everyone had a website
I
on
made a
GeoCities.
website, and I had a page where I just like ripped all my teachers. Like I went through every single teacher, and I was just insulted all my teachers, saying, "Oh," and it was so popular. Everybody in my school were like loved it. It was like, oh.
Oh,
That was the
GeoCities.
start of my journalism. That was.
I haven't heard that name in 100 years. It's like that, and what's it called? Like ICQ, the chat program, and MSN
MSN, yeah,
Messenger,
MSN. I remember MSN.
Messenger, and
Mm.
and and Mirk, IRC, like those, like we're talking like really early internet. I remember Inter's homepage, like having flags that used to like wave in the wind. Like, do you know what I mean? The way that you used the internet back then, like, it's just so archaic,
Yeah,
so archaic.
it certainly is. Right, let's leave it at that. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back later in the week with Q&A, and also Nima's going to do a post-match reaction
Yeah,
to
I'm doing a post-match reaction pod on both Coppa Italia games, but after,
both. You're doing Empoli
yeah,
as
well,
well?
I'm going to be discussing both, but
Oh, right, okay. But you'll do it after the
I'm
Milan
doing it
game. Yeah.
after the Milan derby one on Wednesday night, and that's only for patrons, as is the Q&A, which will be out on Thursday.
Yep. Thank you. So thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you later in the week. Ciao, ciao.